to live chat. Hello, everybody. Greetings or whatever. That's half-hearted. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. I hope everybody can hear me at this volume. I'm using Highdeology, as I often do, as a vocal warm-up today. I am in less than pristine performance condition, and I feel like doing a little talking might shake some of the crust off my vocals, but I've got a sinus infection and or COVID. Who knows? It's hard to tell these days, but I feel like shit. I've got alternately one nostril and no nostrils, and we've got a recording day today, so I've got to get my voice to the point where get myself to the point where I can project enough to do the show. It's kind of an interesting aspect of what I do that a lot of people probably don't understand because they don't work talking for a living. In my training as an actor, you learn about the difference between stage voice and full voice and conversational voice. For example, a lot of people when they first start acting or first, in high school or whatever, will go up on stage and they will say their lines at the same volume that I'm saying them, like you would if somebody was sitting next to you. Hey, Amelia, how are you doing? But the problem is that if I was up on stage, there's very little chance that anybody outside of maybe the front row is going to even hear. And so you have to use your stage voice. Stage voice is probably like at least 3 to 4 times louder for most people than they speak ambiently, but you can't sound like you're shouting. And so it's a technique. It's a vocal control technique that causes you to project your voice louder than it needs to be in order to maintain a sense of clarity. And as a trained stage guy, I do that on this podcast, even at times where I really don't need to. It's part of my training that I find it hard to shake using my performance voice. And as such, this job, especially when we're in like these cycles of doing a lot of shows, recording a lot of shows, it gets to the point where my voice just goes. So anyway, enough rambling.
I think it's people on radio protect their voices a little better with like the radio voice they have to do.
Well, absolutely, they go through
Yeah.
the same shit. They have to do vocal warm-ups. If I was like I gotta be honest with you, it's one of the things that I actually think about because I don't know if other people care, but I care. I care about sounding somewhat pleasing for people to listen to. I care about not being gravelly and shitty. And as a result of that, because I do my job and I rely on this voice or whatever's left of it so much, I really do think that it would be intelligent of me to quit smoking, to maybe even quit some of the things like soda drinking and stuff like that, especially prior to or during shows. I should be drinking water way more often, and really doing like maybe some like a vocal training regiment rather than using this. I could do some vocal warm-ups or something. But yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that like if this job perpetuates another 10 years or something, which it could in some form or another, that I'm going to be struggling way harder than I am now with this phenomenon. And it's really going to be probably going to get down to the point of like should I just adopt this more gravelly way of speaking
Mhm.
and just let that be okay? But I feel like I have a really clear, nice voice, and I hate to lose it. I don't know that other people would even all care all that much, but I would like to keep my voice intact for as long as I can before it goes down that old man road. But smoking is probably the number one culprit. That and just my fucking tendency towards allergy problems and respiratory infections and sinus infections.
About your ears, do you feel like that's getting worse again?
The what?
Your ear, like the ear infections and stuff, or does that?
No, I haven't had an ear infection in a while, but my hearing is going for sure. I've noticed that over the last 10 years or so. And a lot of that probably, like, yeah, I've talked about it here, a lot of that probably has to do with just how incredibly abusive I was to my ears in my 20s. Not even really work related, just like recreation related. You know, there was not like as much of an impetus on like warning people about hearing loss, and there was less controls put into place on consumer media to prevent it. Dude, an old hi-fi stereo would play as loud as the speaker would allow, and the old analog hi-fi headsets that I would listen to stuff on were the same way. They were true monitor headsets, which means I could crank it all the way up. There was no kind of like noise canceling or hearing protection built into these things. They were just open speakers pointed right at your eardrum. And I spent years and years and years of my life, especially in my teenage years, sitting in my room with my parents' old analog hi-fi system with a pair of those old headphones, monitor headphones plugged into it, because my parents couldn't stand when I turned the actual speakers on. And just... But I did, not for a long ass time, but I did quite a bit of roadieing for a local band where when you're a roadie, you typically end up near the stage. I can't tell you how many shows I watched standing literally right next to the speaker stack. You know, just right in front of it. So this is one of those things you have to start thinking about when you start to get older. I know that I'm likely going to need hearing aids when I get older, at least in one ear, if not both. Because I can just tell that my hearing is declining. And the voice thing as well. Do you like Weird Fishes by Radiohead? Yeah. Isn't that on In Rainbows? I'm a low-key Radiohead fan.
Want to stay?
Go with your mama. It's too cold. I want you getting shivers McWivers. Yeah, I'm a low-key Radiohead fan. I like their music. Radiohead seems like one of those love it or hate it bands. Yeah. I used to sleep with the headphones on. I used to just exist in my room for hours and hours with shit playing as loud as I could stand to play it. And even now, I'm prone to, like, well, part of it is now, you know, the beginnings of hearing loss, but I still fucking like to crank it loud. Like, I'll do it without noticing sometimes. When me and Amelia are driving somewhere and I'm, you know, in the pilot seat, I put on whatever music I want to listen to, dude. I'll hit that little volume up button on my steering wheel until I can't hear shit. Like, I want to be surrounded by that loud ass shit. And a lot of people don't want to sit in a car that's that loud. But I just want to be fucking... You're on the hated side of Radiohead. I'm not gonna argue with you. It is what it is. You like who you like. You could be stupid if you want to. Love bumping. You should. Bumping is amazing. Any more Sucker Row videos coming up? No. Nope. Probably not a whole lot of video game videos in general coming up for me. Maybe if we do like some multiplayer stuff as a group, but I like video games to turn my brain off and not have to worry about entertaining anybody. I like to entertain myself sometimes. And so video games are one of those things. If you think about it, like, I'm a guy, my main pastimes and hobbies, are like music, movies, video games, not necessarily in that order, but those are the three things that I do, kind of as a pastime. And a lot of that I end up making part of my content. And I found the last couple of times that I've tried to play a video game and talk to you guys, I just feel like it's an imposition to have you guys there because I have to worry about, like, am I being entertaining enough? Like, fuck that. So let me play a video game. I'm not trying to be a Twitch streamer either, so like I really don't want to devote the time to learn how to do that little thing. I'm sure I could. When I say do that, I mean like the obvious developed talent of talking while playing a video game. So whatever. Man, I do not feel good. Ugh. I'm just thankful at this point that I have both my nostrils back for the moment. Thank goodness for that, I suppose. You could play Among Us as a group. Nope. Among Us is one of those games that's only fun if everybody's actually playing it and nobody's trolling. All it takes is one person trolling hard to ruin a game of Among Us. Same thing goes with those Jackbox games. Like, they make all these games that are meant to be kind of casually played with your audience or a group of friends or whatever. All it takes is one douchebag that decides they're not going to participate to ruin the whole fucking thing. So, no thanks, dude. I'm too old to babysit. I'm too old to want to fucking take care of people's little pranky behaviors and shit. So, that's why, like, I don't know if those of you that are patrons may have noticed that um, we've been doing this like live Friday show. Like, it's a couple of weeks out of the month or whatever. You guys get a live Friday show instead of a pre-recorded one. And I've been trying to come up with ways to, like, how do I involve the live viewing audience in this? And I really want to make that a hallmark of my live shows. I don't want to do a live show that is basically just akin to a normal show. I like our normal shows. I think they're fun to watch. But I really want to capitalize on that live element. And so I'm really going to do my best to make the audience part of the show during those live shows. That arbitrary ban really pissed me off. Oh, it's a little view. Bro, you gotta get thick skin, man. I'll get you unbanned, homie. You gotta get a thicker skin, homie. I mean, look at this shit that gets slung at us as content creators, man. We gotta have a little bit of a thick skin. Dude, you caught a salty TJ ban. You should be honored. You know I could unban you lickety split. You know I could get that taken care of right now, homie. So there's no need to sweat it. There's no need to get too salty, man. Catching a ban is like a badge of honor, man. You were touched. You were reached out and touched by the amazing atheist himself, man. Think about that shit. And remember, dude, you did get banned for leaving us snarky, shitty comment. You didn't get banned for just nothing. You said it was arbitrary, but I really don't think it was all that arbitrary. Remember, you got banned for being like, y'all give shitty advice. So we're sitting there doing the advice column part and actually talking about like what these people need to fucking do to solve their problems. And you said, y'all give shitty advice. So don't act like you didn't play a role in it, Little View. Don't act like you weren't shitty yourself. See what I'm saying? You gotta think about the broad context of your ban. Was it really arbitrary? Or was I just being kind of snarky in the fucking chat? And a little self-serving? I'm like, you didn't get banned until you didn't come up with any better advice than we were given. Then you got yourself banned. You gotta think about the whole event, man. You can't just think about it. Just asking, Christ, can't I ask? Ask what? You didn't ask anything. You said, you guys give shitty advice, LOL. And then we asked, what would your advice be? And you came back with like, I would just tell him to work it out, which is the shittiest advice that we'd ever heard. So you got banned. And you engaged it, you know? I'm not saying your ban was necessarily 100% warranted, nor is it fucking perm. You'll be unbanned before the next fucking live event. Don't worry about it. No need to get all salty-walty, my friend. Bro, I've never said bad about any of you. Well, you'll be back in chat. It's fine. All you gotta do is ask, man. I know you over here. I don't think TJ knows you all that well, but like I'm familiar with you over here. I've got the ability to go into the back end of fucking the Deep Fat Fried channel and unban you. All you gotta do is ask. All you gotta do is say something. No, well, that and like have a little introspection, you know? I'll get you unbanned. It ain't no thing. Literally, it's no thing to unban you. Just like it was no thing to ban you. Like you put a lot more weight on it than you should. I mean, ask some people around here, man. I said you guys give bad advice, lol. It wasn't meant to be read by TJ out loud out of hundreds of comments. Yeah, but that's the thing. When you're participating in a live show, you have to think. You're allowed to say whatever you want. You got the freedom to say what you want, but people's reaction to it is something that you can't control. So I understand you were just trying to make a shitty comment that was just going to be buried in the comments, and you were just doing that thing. But you don't ever know what somebody is going to laser focus in on. In fact, it was me. Now that I think about it, it was me that focused in on your shit, not TJ. It was TJ that banned you. But I was the one that went, oh, Lil View says we give shitty advice. Wonder what advice he's got. You were banned by TJ, but it was me that noticed your comment. And in fact, little known fact, I'm probably the one during these live shows that watches the comments closest. I don't watch them the whole time, but I've got a pretty good system set up where I glance over and see what the temperature is. So there's a good chance I'm going to see your shit. Just like here. You know how I run this. You're like an old school Highdeology person. You know I read that shit. You made a shitty comment. You didn't think we were going to see it. Made you feel better to like say something shitty during the show. And you got saw. And you got banned for it. That's all that happened. I mean, you know, I don't know how many regulars are here, but there's a lot of old school regulars that are around that each have a ban or two under their belt. You know? It happens. Yeah. You just gotta calm down, bud. I saw you got all mad on Patreon too, man. You can't get that. You just can't. You can't let the internet get you that mad. Take it from somebody who sometimes lets the internet get him that mad, bro. You can't. For legal reasons, that last comment was sarcastic. Oh, good to know. Man, that coffee's good. He's mentioning the DFF subreddit and Instaban. No. I mean, nothing is like an Instaban. It all depends on context, right? If you're just like, if you mention it and I don't pick up on it and you make 5 more comments in rapid succession trying to get my attention about it, that's an Instaban. But you can bring it up if you want. There's no guarantee I'm going to read your comments or go with whatever line of questioning you're trying to go with. TJ is all hopped up on Addies. I blamed that for the hammer. TJ's on Adderall as treatment for adult ADD, which TJ, I mean, I'm no fucking psychiatrist, but take it from somebody that's been around TJ a lot, lived with TJ for over a year, probably close to 2 years. TJ's got ADHD or ADD or whatever it is. He's not one of these people that's like, oh my God, I've got OCD, but really doesn't. He's an ADD case, and so TJ takes Adderall for that. Telling someone to not get mad usually upsets them more in my experience online. Some people can't take genuine advice, that it's best to let it go. Yeah, I mean, I can get that, like saying, because sometimes that's said facetiously. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, why are you gonna be so mad, bro? Why are you getting mad? And it's used as a taunt. That's not how I'm using it here, though. I'm talking as a dude that gets mad to another dude that gets mad, you know? Say what you want about Little View, but I feel like I understand him, at least on that level. He's a guy that takes things personal. I'm a guy that takes things personal. I have a tendency. You know, and one of the things that I've learned over the years and years and years and years that I've done this, both as a hobby and professionally, is that you gotta learn to pick your battles. You know, you can't let every little thing get to you, because if you do, you're just gonna be mad and salty all the time, man. I know it's a meme that I'm mad and salty all the time, but I think the people that watch these know that just isn't true. I have a tendency to get mad and salty, but I choose my battles. I mean, you guys watch me here. Well, I would say, like, especially like if you took the last year or so into context, I would say like mad and salty ideologies are pretty few and far between. You know, I might I might get worked up a little here and there, but it's pretty rare for you guys to get a tone like a ideology where the whole tone, is mad and salty. Yeah, man. I'll get salty sometimes on these, and there's nothing wrong with that. Excuse me. California, please. Don't do me like this. I think you're more than fair. I don't know about that. There's some times where I'm kind of purposefully unfair because life is unfair. I don't think fairness is really the thing I'm shooting for, but I don't think unfairness is either. So I'm glad that I think overall you should be perceived as reasonable and fair, and I think I am, honestly. I think there are times where I'm unreasonable, and I do think here's one thing I know is probably the worst offense. Like if I were to look at all the things that people are mad at me about, or people get mad at me about, having this type of opinion, the way I talk, how often I do an impersonation, or blah 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 blah. There's a lot of little things about me that people, kind of choose as their pet. I hate this about Paul. I hate this about Paul. And if I were to think about the one that I think bears the most merit, it's that I have a tendency sometimes to make a snap judgment that precludes me understanding the tone of a message. And in my defense, and this is all I'll say in my defense, because I do think that it's something that really is on me. In my defense, it can be very hard to read tone via text. And a lot of what I do is that, I talk to you guys vocally, but you guys have to type. And so I would say that is probably the thing that deserves the most saltiness. Because sometimes people will say something that's rather innocuous or supposed to be a joke, and I'll think that they're, you know, talking to me, or maybe they're having a that's why I kind of ban side conversations, because people would have these side conversations where they would talk to one another, and I would look at the chat and I would read like, "You're a dumb motherfucker," and I'd be like, "Well, fuck you, banned." Well, they weren't saying it to me; they were saying it to some other idiot. So I've definitely done quite a bit of that, but I think that's kind of made up for by the fact that I periodically unban everybody from the channel. So, no ban is permanent here on Highdeology. No matter what I say. I may tell you, well, bans are permanent now. And it's always been that way. 'Twas always thus, and always thus will be. I mean, it's Medspeds. I don't think you're an egregious offender. Off topic is okay. It's just when people are incessantly off topic. You know what I mean? It's one thing to drop here's something that happened to me, because I might spark a conversation. And I want you guys to look at this as somewhat of a little social group, because let's be honest with you, it is. It's weird, but we are all part of a weird little social group. We meet, in the mornings and the evenings, and we talk and we shoot the shit. Now, it's not necessarily a balanced social group. I definitely have leadership over the social group in a way that isn't really natural in a social situation. But that being said, That's what it is, right? And as such, there are social norms that apply here that maybe don't apply in a Twitch stream. Because say what you want about a Twitch streamer, they may talk the talk of like, oh, you're my community, but they're not reading the shit you say. They're not paying attention to the pepegas and the omega lulls. Unless, they're using it as a barometer to make sure that they're doing okay, but that's not community. That's like a stadium performance where it's like you're judging the laughs out of the crowd. That's not what I'm doing. I talk with you guys. I like this when I have time, but I really want to catch these live. Yeah. Good. And I'd say that the social group that I'm talking about probably consists of about 200 people. There's probably about 200 people who are regulars, who don't watch this content the way the other, 900,000 people that end up watching these do. They look at it as like a little social group. And I would say that, given the time of day and the rotation of people, I would say, and the amount of people that I get watching me, sometimes between 60 and 100 people per stream, I would say would be pretty charitable. And, I'd say there's probably about 200 folks. And that's pretty interesting. 200 person minor social group. One of the things that I have denied Highdeology is the actual formal structure of a social group. I don't have a Highdeology Discord. I don't have a Highdeology subreddit. I don't have a Highdeology Twitter account. I don't do that. I don't want that. Because that turns into poison. No joke. That necessitates a hierarchical structure that I am not in direct control of at all times. Like here, the specters, they're scrutinized 10 times as hard as everybody else is. No joke. You guys may think having a blue wrench is a privilege, but trust me, the people that specter in this community, with a few exceptions, it's like, I'll give you an example of one of those exceptions, MedSpeds, right? It's not a bad thing to be an exception, but MedSpeds is somebody that I have met and interacted with in real life. She has specterhood not because I expect her to take time out of her day when she's here to do any kind of enforcement. If MedSpeds never bans anybody or never does any kind of enforcement, it is a-okay with me. Because MedSpeds is somebody that is a specter via the fact that I've met them in real life. I've interacted with them in real life. I've known them, or at least known of them. I'm not claiming Meds and I are like best of friends or something, but we've been interacting and socializing since well back in the DP days. She's a known quantity to me. And so she's got a wrench, but I don't scrutinize her for rule violations or whatever the fuck. But then there are, yeah, I understand that. You can do whatever you want. Like, I remember when I wrenched you up, and I do this for everybody that I know, if you're just a person that I know, like, I remember I told you, and I tell everybody this when I wrench you up, if you're a person I know, you don't have to do shit with this. This is just so I can see you better. This does give you the power to ban people if you want to do it. Pop your whoop. That's not a problem, but don't feel like you got to be at work here. But then you got other people who I either haven't met in real life or who, I only know through these online interactions. And they've garnered a level of respect, but they're also expected to do their thing, And then there's Jason, right? Like if I If I catch one of my specters, you know, messing around or whatever, I yank it. Who? Oh, there's been several, dude. Jamie Darkey used to be a mod over here. No joke. Jamie Darkey was a mod over here for the longest time, dude. Honestly, like one of the long time mods. Jamie Darkey was the first Spectre that I ever had to defrock. Oh, I'm sorry. Jamie Darkey. I don't want to be accused of using a racial epithet. That was the silliest thing that came out of that. There was legit like a comment that had a ton of votes that said that I was calling her Jamie Darkey in reference to the racial epithet of the same name, which makes absolutely no sense. That makes absolutely like zero fucking sense in context or otherwise. But yeah, so Jamie Darkey. Or I'm sorry, Lady Hopium. Oh yeah, Kawaii Cost got butchered as well. Yeah, Kawaii Cost was a mod over here. And he got butchered for just like sharing content. Like in the early days too, when we were really trying to push to build something that had a little momentum, he was one of the first people to be distributing our paid content and shit. And he was also like all buddy with us, you know. And so it was just like, that was extra shitty. And at this point, it probably wouldn't even have been that big of a deal. But at that point, when things were like fucking right on the cusp of becoming successful, he was one of the first dudes to like, I'm gonna pay the $5 to be a patron, and then I'm gonna steal all their shit and secretly put it up places, post it all over Discord and blah blah blah. Yeah, and Isla Mao went on a fucking crazy banning spree. I got defrocked by TJ once for jokingly telling him to piss off. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's a fine line. I will tell you this, dude, and this maybe you guys won't agree with this analysis. I am known as Salty Paul, right? And I bear that moniker with pride. I'm fine with that. I understand that it could be pejorative and sometimes is meant that way, but I never take it that way. I've embraced the inner saltiness, but, and we'll see, maybe this is a hot take. You guys can tell me if you think I'm wrong. When it comes to hair trigger tempers, both TJ and Scotty have me beat by a fucking country mile. When it comes to going from 0 to 100, from happy to pissed, both of the Kirk brothers beat me by a country mile. I am way less likely to just absolutely descend it. Now, it'll happen. I'm not saying I never do, but I'm just saying. What Otello was talking about there, or Asbestos Fingers was talking about there, he got defrocked by TJ because he told TJ piss off. Now that probably wouldn't even catch my eye, but TJ is not going to be impugned, dude. TJ's not going to be insulted by somebody that he's empowered, dude. He fucking just fuck you. I don't know Scotty that well. TJ definitely is. Well, I mean, they share like a family temper. Both TJ, I want, like, I really honestly, they're kind of like, they get there differently. And once again, like, I want to make it absolutely plain to anybody. This is not me talking shit about these guys. These guys are my fucking friends and business partners. This is just observational shit. I don't think having a bad temper is necessarily some kind of horrible fucking thing. But, you know, I'm sure that they could make some observations about the way that I work that would be absolutely true. You know, we've been around each other a long time. They have different ways of getting there, but the ultimate result is the same, which is like the explosive anger, right? Um, Scotty, I think, has more of a hair trigger type temper. Scotty, I think, 99% of the time is, pretty cool, calm, and collected. But I think that he has these like triggers where he feels, whether, this is true of all angry people, whether it's true of me too, sometimes you misinterpret some shit, whether it's meant or not, Scotty will feel insulted. And if he reaches that point, that's the trigger. It's like boom, and he is pissed. And I think TJ, he's more of like a tea kettle, right? TJ's natural reaction when people get passionate or whatever, like, not passionate, when people get like angsty and there's conflict and stuff, one of TJ's natural reactions from my perspective is to kind of disassociate. Like, he'll get quiet and brooding. And it kind of looks like he's not paying attention. But what's really happening is that he's sitting and listening. And slowly but surely, as Daniel Plainview said, building up his hatreds piece by piece. And then when he reaches the point where the water's boiling, the tea kettle lets loose. And it goes from 0 to 100 real quick. It's kind of that way with both of them, but I think that it gets there different, like I'm saying. From an outside perspective that doesn't know these dudes, it goes from 0 to 100 real quick. Knowing them better, personally, I kind of have learned to know when it's heading in that direction. So, and for me, I mean, my self perception of this is that, for me, anger and exasperation will come out, typically in the form of comments that are kind of shitty to other people. I'm kind of a person who will get angry and start making snarky comments, not necessarily get super angry right away, but start making comments that will trigger anger in other people. And then it goes there. That's my family dynamic as I remember it. And so I can only imagine that's how I'm perceived by people. But you would have to have this conversation with TJ and Scotty. And I'd be totally fine with that, by the way. It'd be interesting to me, honestly, to hear, because those guys know me pretty well. They worked with me and been my friends for a long time. And I know they'd be honest about it. Kind of interesting to hear what they thought about my personality, that my anger flaws, like how my anger problems manifest themselves in a friendship and a business relationship or whatever. But to me, it's all psychology. You know what I mean? No ill intent. It's all interesting, and it makes them unique. Okay. I got too much post-nasal drip and shit going on to smoke weed today. We're going to have to just not smoke. I'm not gonna, just going to have to set aside the green. have to take Benadryl before the show. Try and clear out some of these sinuses and shit. Time to grab the neti pot. Dude, I hate those, man. I hate neti pots. Who's scarier when they're angry? This is not meant as an insult, but neither one of them is very scary when they're angry. I don't think I'm super scary when I'm angry. I just get loud, and I feel this kind of the same way about them. But I grew up around a lot of angry people, so it takes, it takes a little more, I think, to get me like actually scared of somebody who's loud and boisterous and angry and defensive and all the things that people get when they're raging out. I'm super scary when happy. Why would you say that? What a beautiful day. Look how blue the sky is. Toodly-tee, toodly-too. Clipped and decontexted. Oh shit. Oh shit. I asked TJ in 2009 if he was a mean drunk in Tiny Chat or something, and he just goofed on my question for a couple of minutes. I don't think he's a mean drunk. I really feel like, alcohol, and once again, I grew up in an alcoholic household around a lot of people who had, if they were not alcoholics, they definitely abused alcohol very openly for a very long time. So I know the drunk mentality from inside and out. I spent my 20s doing the same shit. I was drunk just about as many hours in my 20s as I was sober. If you do the math. My work days were the work hours were my forced sobriety hours, and then pretty much any hour outside of that, I was either sleeping or drinking. And so, like I said, I grew up around a lot of it, looking from the outside in, and I grew up around, I grew up being one as well, participating in that kind of culture. And so I speak with that level of authority. And I don't think either Scotty or TJ are mean drunks. In fact, I would say, and this is once again not an insult, I would say that both TJ and Scotty are what I would call typical drunks. I'm a typical drunk. In fact, I may be the most typical drunk. Typical drunks are prone to outbursts of extreme emotion and tend towards happiness and jubilation. So a typical drunk is somebody that is very laugh prone, very mischievous and fun and funny, and that part of your personality is kind of elevated. And when I say, and then you might have these what I call emotional outbursts. And these are times where you overhear something or you see something, and because you're drunk, you take it the wrong way. And instead of just shrugging it off like you normally would, you're drunk and you fixate on it and you get all moody. Or you mishear something and you think, like, oh, what the fuck did you say to me? And you want to get all aggressive for a second. You were just happy, but you just got to get aggressive for a second. Because once I said that's part of your emotional outburst, right? Or, and we're still talking about the typical drunk here, or you get a little weepy. You get sappy. Maybe weepy is a bad term. You get sappy drunk. And I would say that a typical drunk displays all of these kind of emotional extremes if you're around them enough times when they're drunk. And I would say that myself, TJ, Scotty, and I would call these people also non-alcoholic drunks. Now, look, dude, maybe TJ or Scotty is hiding some kind of alcohol abuse, but I feel pretty confident in saying that they're non-alcoholics, and I know I'm not an alcoholic, so we're good. Well, okay, I'm not currently living as an alcoholic. Looking at my 20s, I was probably borderline. It was probably getting to the point where I was abusing alcohol to the point of alcoholism. So, you know, they say once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. I was definitely raised by alcoholics. So, maybe I am an alcoholic, but I'm definitely not displaying the behavior of an alcoholic. I don't drink. You know, I have a beer every once in a while. You know, I don't binge drink. I'm usually, you know, the guy smoking a joint at the party. That's me. That's my archetype. But when I do get drunk, which is very, like, it hasn't happened. I don't think I have been what I would call drunk. And Amelia can correct me on this, maybe in a future episode. She's not here right now. But I have not been what I would call capital D drunk since the remember that board game challenge that I won, TJ's twisted board game that I perfect rolled. That literally killed my desire to ever get drunk again. I think I've been buzzed. Like, there's been a couple of times where I had a couple beers or something, you get a little head change, but I have not been like bleh, sloshed since that night. And I really don't ever plan on getting there again. I really don't plan on ever being that drunk ever again. But anyway, that's why I say that the three of us land where most people land with alcohol. You're very typical drunks. A little bit, you know, because I've had those types of moments and provided those types of moments as a drunk with all three of these dudes. So, that being said, there are other types of drunks. There's the quote unquote mean drunk. And this is typically a person who's an alcoholic. The mean drunk is a person that, as they like, and I've been around these people, and it really is fucked up. And I can tell you unequivocally, Scotty and TJ and myself are not these type of people. It is like the bottle is concentrated human meanness, right? And as they take a shot of it, that meanness starts to fill them up. Every shot raises their percentage of meanness. And if you've been around these type of people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Until they reach a point where they are just the fucking most vile person you could ever imagine. Totally shitty. Total asshole. Well, yeah, you're right. It is misery. But the way it's projected out of them is meanness. That bottle just fills from a you know, metaphorical perspective, just fills them up. They get to a point where they just become intolerably mean, intolerably self-centered. That's a mean drunk. And Yeah, sometimes it expresses themselves as the alpha Chad drunk that has to fight every time they get drunk. Sometimes it expresses themselves as a person who just starts saying nasty, like out of pocket shit. You know, a person that's normally pretty cool will get some liquor in them and all of a sudden they're all out of pocket at the party. You know, like if you've been around these people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like they're starting to say mean shit. They're hitting on other people's girlfriends and then calling them sluts. Those type of mean just guys that just turn into total intolerable shits. That's a mean drunk. Not all mean drunks are people that go straight to the fists. A lot of it is like poison just starts coming out. They start, oh, fuck you, Mexican bitch. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. And everybody at the party's like, what? So, yeah. And then the last, I'd say, of the major group of drunks, and there's a microcosm of this. I'm no expert, and you could probably talk all fucking day about the different types of alcohol abusers. But the one that I've really observed is that deserves mentioning here is the I take alcohol so that I can dump my trauma. And if you've been around it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These people are not mean drunks. These people are not typical drunks like I described. These people are people who, instead of the bottle being concentrated human anger and meanness and saltiness, it's sorrow, right? And all of the things that they bottle up, as they start putting that alcohol in them, there's no room for it anymore and it starts spilling them out. And they want to pull you aside and cry, or they want to just start reliving all the trauma in their lives. And they will literally tell you shit that they know. And it's sad, man. They will tell you shit like a dude that's wife died of cancer. You'll be sitting there with them and he'll go like, man, you know, my wife died of cancer, man. And you're just like, oh my fucking God, bro. And you know you were at her funeral. You know, that level where it's just like these people have no outlet for their emotions. And the only thing that lets them get the veneer of their stoic life out of the way enough to let themselves be vulnerable enough is, you know, drinking. Can I get a time check? You guys give me like a PST time check, please. I need to know what time it be. Is it really 11:56? 10 a.m. in Cali. Thank you. I want to see a few more people say it. I need a couple of trustworthy sources. Sorry I have to do this, but yeah, all right. Almost 10. All right. Dude, you scared the shit out of me when you were. Yeah. I was like, holy shit. I gotta go. Oh, I got time. This is actually like, it may not sound it, but I think this has been good for what little bit of my voice is left. And I'm hoping that I can get through the shooting day that we have today and be relatively okay with it. I was able to sit and do the onion nuggets last night. Sick with this. I think I can do this too. This warm up has been crucial. Because if I would have jumped straight into it, man, I was not. Dude, I felt like fucking ass this morning. I still feel like fucking ass. I feel a little less like ass, though. But anyway, yeah, that's whatever. Drunkenness. Have you ever eaten onion nuggets? No. No, I have not. Do you need medication? I have stuff that I take for my allergies and various different types. Today I'm going to take Benadryl right before we shoot, and that'll help. And that'll make me tired, and when we're done shooting, I'll probably pass out. That's the downside to Benadryl for me, is like it helps, but then as it works, I start to get more and more tired. But it really does help. Like it helps. Like I found that if I can stave off that sleepiness, it actually helps to clear me up enough to, what I mean, get my sinuses clear. So I'll probably pop a Benadryl or two. Definitely sound better. Yeah. A lot of it is just like dusting off. But this is like a low vocal range, man. I was talking to Amelia about this, and it's something that I kind of struggle with. And I know before anybody fucking says it that my indulgence in cigarettes plays a role in this. But I also know that let me give you an anecdotal example. My dad's voice did this very same thing. Not exactly like mine, but as he got to be my age and older, I've been out of contact with him for a number of years, but he just got like gravelier. And I think it happens to a lot of people in their middle age. They don't really have kind of like, I think I've got like the same voice I always had, but I just feel like, I was talking to Amelia about it, and I would not be shocked if I've got like some kind of scarring on my vocal cords or nodules or whatever. Dude, I've literally blown my voice out. My dad never smoked a cigarette in his life, so was not a smoker. And like I said, it wasn't, he didn't necessarily do the same thing, but his voice got different, gravelier a little bit. And it happens to, I think, a lot of old people. Like that's just kind of like what happens in middle age. It's probably a little accelerated for me by both the fact that I have horrible allergies, which, and then I smoke. And both of those things are going to exacerbate the problem. So it's one of those things, that I feel like I need to think about, because I think it bothers me more than it bothers other people. But having a clear voice, man, I can't remember the last time I did. Like even before I started smoking cigarettes again, I sounded pretty much like this. And if you go and listen to me back in like my late 20s, at the very conception of this channel, I was still a smoker. I didn't sound like this though. And maybe it's just a natural thing that I need to embrace, but it's hard for me to do that. And it's also something that like I can't fucking yell the way I used to be able to. I can't. Like I honestly think there's a time. I want to see if you guys, some of you long timers, can remember what I'm talking about. There was a time on DP where I had just moved. Not even moved yet. I had just come to stay with TJ for a couple of months so that I could film in studio with the guys. And I think I was in the process of moving, getting all my shit together so I could move to the area. And I blew my vocal cords out. And I sounded like some kind of weird mafia don for like 6 episodes. Do you guys remember this? The like cash on the barrel head when I was talking to, because I talked to the manatee at some point where hey baby,
Not leaving right this second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I talked to the manatee at some point with my voice like that, and I can't even imitate it because I had. Here's what happened. We had done. I'm trying to remember what happened. It was like a stacking of things. We had done a meetup at 16-bit, which means, I'm outside, I'm talking, I'm yelling, and we did a little performance. No, we didn't even do a performance there, but there was a whole show wrapped around it. We did tons of streaming. I was doing tons of personal streaming, like way more than I do now. I stream a lot for just like a personal streamer or whatever, a person that sits down on vlogs or whatever. You get one a day out of me, usually. I take breaks. Back then, I was streaming, dude, I'd wake up in the morning and I would stream. And then I would go and do DP and stream, right? And then I would get done with that and I would come home and chill out for an hour, and then I'd start up a stream until the wee hours, lather, rinse, repeat every day. I was all day. I was online all day. And so that, coupled with the meetup, something just snapped. And I remember when it happened. It was painful. I know something happened here in my vocal cords. And you guys remember, I talked like a crazy, like Italian mob boss for, like I said, for like 6 episodes until my voice started to come back, but it never came back. Like, honestly, if you listen to my performance, if you can find that era in DP history, if those are still up, let me try and fucking put this somewhere where I'll use this because it doesn't have anything in it. Okay, yeah. If you can find that era of DP, whatever it was that I did that injured my vocal cords at that point, for better or for worse, my voice was never the same. I always thought you sounded like John Malkovich. Dude, I do not hear that. We might have the same tone of voice, but even when I think back on when my voice was less gravelly and a little bit higher in natural speaking tone, I don't hear the Malkovich comparison. He has such a deliberate way of talking. Like, that's what I say. I think it might be tone and not, enunciation. But
I mean, you sound way less gravelly than when you woke up this morning.
Well, that's why I did this. I was just telling them sometimes you got to flick the dust off of them. And I've been very careful not to be loud, but it's helped. I've seen your content when you used to have a lisp. Did you have? I didn't have a lisp. I had a really shitty mic. So if you look at my early content, I was recording on a really crappy desk. What was called it was like a Radio Shack mic. It was a desktop mic that you would plug in, and it stood, and it was like a long thing. They don't even make them anymore, but it was a shitty, and even when I was using it, it was made probably like 5 or 6 years ago, and it was cheap, and so it was crap. And so every time I hit an S or a C, it made it sound like I was, because it was whispery. Yeah, it was like a gaming headset mic. It was that level, but detached from the headset. Yeah, I don't hear John Malkovich either, but I have heard it before. Smoke Perp, I don't think is the only dude that's ever said it. Like, I've read it in my old comments and stuff. I've read people say, "Oh, Paul sounds like John Malkovich." I always thought it was kind of a meme, because I've never heard the comparison. I think in 10 more years, Paul's gonna sound like John Goodman. I'm a fat ballerina. Well, maybe I can get a job in Transformers, The Infinite Stop, or whatever the 15th entry is. I mean, like, okay, here maybe here is why people used to compare me to Malkovich. I've been thinking about it. Okay, when I first started doing the vlog thing, you guys got to remember what my background is. And at the time when I started doing vlogs on this channel, I was acting in shows actively. Like, I was in college for a lot of that. I was acting in shows. And so were I to be cast in a role, I would enunciate way more than you hear me enunciate typically when I'm just having a leisurely conversation with you. Because when you're talking in a stage voice, you have to be absolutely deliberate about your consonants. You cannot stumble, you cannot fumble, you cannot bumble your words. And I was way more stage performative at the beginning of my career as a vlogger. I had way more of a sense that I needed to be putting on a performance, both vocally and visually. And so when people watch my old content, they see a more animated Paul. They see a more stage ready Paul. They see a Paul that has a different kind of performative presence. And that fit very well with the atheist craze of 2007, because there were hundreds and hundreds of people making dry, boring, innocuous atheist videos. A dime a dozen. Find them anywhere, under any rock. To stand out, you had to be performative. To stand out, you had to have a big personality. But over the years, vlogging changed in a significant way. A number of significant ways, if we're completely honest about it. Vlogging changed. People started to respect the performativeness less and started to really start looking for more down-to-earth performances. And so people's language, energy level, tone started to normalize a lot more. Vlogging became a more personal thing. And so you started to see people allow more of a look into themselves. Hello, baby. Okay. I love you. Have a good day.
All right, thank you.
I'll have my phone on. I don't know if we'll be filming or whatever, but if you get a break, just call me if you want to.
I'll let you know.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I love you. Drive safe.
I will.
Yeah, I was 27 years old when I started on YouTube. So you go back to the oldest videos on my channel, that's me at 27. I'm now 42. It's not quite 20 years doing it. I really liked your old performativeness. I've gotten to a point now where I've adjusted my presentation to be so much like I am that I would feel like it would be immediately false for me to go back to that performative delivery, unless I'm doing some kind of project. You hear a lot more of that in Cinema for Cynics, for example, because that is written to be that way. But what what I do now is not written, it's unscripted. And so even though I could definitely do that, as you guys just saw, I could definitely dial up the performativeness on demand. It would feel pretty fake. Your first video was ass, you turned into an amazing YouTuber. Well, that's the thing, is like, I really had a moment or two of reflection because I was so interested in YouTube when I found the vlogging community and the atheist community in particular. I was so interested. I was like, oh, dude, this is cool. I want to do this so hard. But I had not ever done any kind of camera work at all, or very little of it by that point. I think I was in one student film as an extra. So really no significant camera work and definitely no vlogging and stuff. So I had no idea how to present myself or be. And I had this real moment of like, well, this is not a hobby for me. But I was still so interested in it, you know what I mean? And to be quite honest with you, I just started to not directly steal content-wise, but steal performance-wise from the other people that were doing it and make my own thing with it. Once I realized that the difference between Paul Zigo's first video and an Amazing Atheist video, or a Fake Sagan video, or a Captain Awesome video, or a, dare I say it, Brett Keane video, was that there was a sense of urgency, performance, and passion about those. And there was a sense of detached, like boring smugness about mine. And so I was like, whoa, well, if I'm going to give this a shot, I've got to throw a little more effort at it. And see, that was what I learned. There's a lot of people, this is a great little object lesson. There's a lot of people that look at what I do and go like, oh man, you do nothing. There's no art to that. Anybody could just turn on a fucking webcam and blah, 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 blah. No. That day, all the way back in 2007, that era, is when I learned that there is an absolute art to the way that you present yourself. And I had a boost. I had a boost because a lot of the shit that people don't have access to, I had access to because I had a whole toolkit of acting. I was currently working on it, still expanding that tool set. Still, you know, not working, getting paid, but working as an actor, still in show after show after show after show. And so I had all that training to draw from to put out here. I just had to get over the there's nobody here thing. But that's where what a lot of people don't understand is even the people that didn't have that more formalized training spent just as many hours carefully developing what they did. And that's what you have to do to succeed at this long term. And that's, you know, a lot of people don't understand. I learned very early on that you don't just turn the camera on and go like, whatever, man, you know, and get $1 million. You just get fucked on. But you perform. You give people a charismatic performance. I feel like being on a podcast and being able to just talk to a person would be easier than just talking to a camera. No, wrong. A podcast is it's a complication, if anything. It's actually easier to do what I'm doing now than it is to podcast because there's not 13 different personalities vying for my attention at every given moment, or 3 or 2 or 1. It's just me. It's me and, you know, when she wants to, Amelia, but you know, podcasting is way different than what I do. This is way more conversational. Podcasting is a totally different world. A total complication of the vlog. And it's a natural outcropping, isn't it? It started with one-man shows. Then you started getting these collabs, and then the podcast was born. And that was ascendant, and that became kind of the way eventually that everybody had one. Everybody presented themselves that way. And the art form evolved, and if you didn't evolve with it, you got left way behind. But yeah, a lot of work, a lot of deliberate practice, one way or the other. That's how you do it. But eventually you got to throw yourself out there. You just have to throw yourself out there with this in mind. I'm going to suck for a while. It's going to be a hot minute, but I'm going to keep working at it. And the people that do that actually succeed. And I'm not just talking about vlogging, I'm talking about everything. You know, nobody is Mozart, who, like, as soon as he learned to walk, you know, toddled over to the grand piano and was like, you know what I mean? That it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Maybe for him it was like that, but for everybody else, it's that old grandpa stuff. But it's true. 10,000 hours of deliberate practice is how you get good at something. And there are various stages of that shit too. You have to understand, you don't have to suck until 10,000 hours. You're an apprentice at, 1,000. You're a journeyman at 5,000. And you're a master at 10. And if you haven't put in that work, and I'm talking deliberate is the most important word in that old adage. 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. Deliberate is the standout word in that sense. I think a lot of people focus on the 10,000 hours. It's the deliberate that you should focus on. Have you, like, people will get exasperated and say, oh, I'm really good at something, but I never got the recognition that I feel like I deserved, or I tried to do YouTube, but it just didn't work out. It's like, how many hours of deliberate practice did you put in? Probably not that many. So what did you expect? That somebody was going to take a neophyte and treat them like they're a journeyman? An apprentice? It's that way when it comes to any talent. You know what I mean? Everybody, like, I really feel like human beings inherently have a passion, however it takes form. I've never really met a person that was just good at nothing. You know what I mean? I've met a lot of people that felt like they were good at nothing, but when you get to know those people, you find out they're good at something. And so when you're good at something, it's beyond just being good at doing it. It's you get a little joy out of doing it. That's it. Your passion is not working. You have a passion, Draco. You have a passion, trust me. Then do it. So that's the thing. Once you know what your thing is, you have to study it, work within it, and deliberately practice it for 10,000 hours. Boom, boom, boom. You have to be it. Anyway, I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.